I believe life is about being on a wellness adventure, and since 2017, I've been on a quest of redefining how to create an unmistakably high quality life. It's involved relearning my primal instincts, reclaiming the power of unshakable belief in myself, revamping what is in my kitchen from food to water, and rediscovering the practical wisdom in regular everyday moments. I'm hungry to expose how easy it is to live a vibrant and fulfilling life that is equally good for us and the planet. Here on the Isabelle Wellman Show, we weave the practical and the mystical to evolve into the highest quality versions of ourselves in order to lead a long-lasting ripple effect. Together, let's lay it all out on this wellness adventure. Hi there, and welcome back to the Isabelle Wellman Show. I'm going to be really straightforward and let y'all know that I've been loving not having a schedule for the podcast, and that feels the best for me during this time. It's a really intense, energetic time of change and renewal and release. And I'll tell you, I've been going through it, y'all. I've been going through it. I'm not in a space of speaking about the energetics or astrology at this time. It doesn't feel true for me in this moment. However, that's okay. And it's okay for us to not share our entire lives with the world around us. And I'm not ready for that. So, what I am ready for is to introduce you to another wonderful, fantastic, and enlivening human being who I get to blissfully call my friend, named Jake Malouf. He is who I am interviewing in today's podcast. And like the title cover says, bio optimization on the last frontier. He lives in Alaska. That is where we met. And our souls collided like two little supernovas, bursting into a million tiny stars of energy, of ideas, of innovation, of what health and wellness gets to mean. Note that I say gets to mean and gets to be, because it gets to be a more efficient, new, energizing, and timely experience that goes into our bodies from the inside out, healing us. And we're going to be talking about a new investment of his called OsteoStrong, and a new business endeavor, which you'll hear a lot more about. But so you get a better idea of who Jake is, here is his intro. Jake Malouf is an accomplished leader and registered nurse with 19 years of experience in orthopedics and home health. With a diverse educational background, including a master's in nursing, business administration, and healthcare management, Jake brings a comprehensive understanding of the healthcare industry forward. Beyond his professional achievements, Jake possesses a genuine passion for health and wellness, continuously seeking opportunities to help others on their unique journeys. He enjoys a variety of outdoor activities such as skiing, climbing, biking, hunting, fishing, and exploring the open road on his motorcycle. He has developed a keen interest in beekeeping and has developed in a formal study of qigong. Jake is a dedicated husband and father to two grown children. His experiences in balancing personal and professional responsibilities have shaped his managerial and interpersonal skills. Motivated by the desire to make a positive impact, Jake is thrilled to channel his expertise and diverse background into bringing forth OsteoStrong to Alaska. By introducing this innovative approach to enhancing strength and reducing pain, Jake aims to empower individuals to live life to the fullest. As you are about to hear on the podcast, Jake is a heartful, loving, compassionate, and extreme athlete. He has lived the life of injury, of insane, traumatic experiences, and he is his own testimony of how we can look at wellness in a whole new facet and grow beyond what we have ever known before because of what is now available to us. I thank you so much for listening to today's podcast, and I'm eager to hear how you like it. Enjoy and welcome to the show. Jake Malouf,
Isabelle Wellman.
how are you?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good.
You're looking really good.
Yeah, how we're just going to keep going back and forth because we could do that for a while.
I know we could. I'm just going to jam it in with what has been your favorite nature element? I ask this because it's really windy in Reno today, and I really appreciate the wind. I used to not, but today it dawned on me this morning, and I became fascinated with a little bit of critical thinking, or maybe introspective thinking about the power of the wind and more of the spiritual essence of it. But I've been really feeling in alignment with the power of the wind, how it can blow pieces of a house away. It can be a really cute breeze in the hair of a lover that you're looking at sunset. It can morph into all these different energetics. I felt like I should ask you, what element have you been feeling grounded into lately?
That's such a great question. I mean, I love wind also. So but I don't want to just copy you, but I've always had an affinity to wind. Wind is so energizing, like a good windstorm. I get done with those or in the middle of those. I'm the guy that was out like grabbing a tarp when I was a kid and trying to fly. But lately, the element that's been talking to me more is water. Um, Mostly because Alaska has a lot of water. You're down in Reno, which is maybe a little less water. But right now we're in the frozen state. Last week I went ice climbing, which is always one of my favorite activities because it puts me right in the middle of water and I can see it in its still form. And it changes and morphs every time, and it can refract the light and make beautiful prisms of color, and it's alive, and it has so many different textures and feelings to it. It brings energy, it brings life, it can also take away life. It helps with transportation, and it can get in the way of transportation. I mean, it's through our bodies, it's everywhere. So I've just been connected to water lately.
And your feelings. Does that have anything to do with any feelings you're currently experiencing in life? Maybe a new flow of direction or a new path that's been carving its way and giving you a new entry or maybe an exit?
Well, it's a good segue because Amy and I, when we started, we were probably going to talk about OsteoStrong at some point down the road here. And when we were looking into this, the thing that actually made the decision to, yes, we're going to do this, was actually a conversation I was having with who is now our manager, Megan. She and I were talking, and she was on one side of her living room, I was on the other side of the living room, and we literally, both of us, felt like this proverbial energetic mystical river just started to flow. It started in the south, flowed north. I mean, I can even picture the direction, and it just felt like, we're going to do this. The river's right in front of us. Do you want to jump in? And so we did, and that's what was the deciding point, and that's what got us on this journey.
Truth bumps.
Yeah.
Truth bumps down the body, feeling that. When I hear you say that, just jumping into the river, have you felt like it's been non-resistant or really in sync with the rest of what's happening in your world?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's been hiccups, there's been challenges. It's not like it hasn't had a ton of work involved, but yes, the whole thing has felt like flow state. Even before we made the decision to do it, it just felt like things happened. The managers, the people, the staff, the location of the building, all these things are these serendipitous moment after moment after moment that just kind of confirmation that this is, if there is such a thing as the right path for us, I think we're on
Mm-hmm. All right, talk to us about OsteoStrong. Because everyone's probably like, all right, what are they
it.
talking about?
What is that word? Well, to be fair, it's not new. This has been around for a little bit, but osteo, bones, strong bones. That's the whole idea. It's a system where we have 4 devices that people can use that essentially allow them to use their own bodies to strengthen their own bones. It reverses osteoporosis. And then there's all sorts of other ancillary metabolic benefits where it decreases the hemoglobin A1C, which is a primary diabetic marker. It increases human growth hormone, increases testosterone, decreases joint pain, and allows your skeleton to get stronger, so then your muscles can get stronger, so then your whole frame and posture gets stronger. What it's doing is taking people who are with osteoporosis or osteopenia and giving them decades back onto their life of functional strength and functional living. That's what we're doing, what it is. So it was invented by a guy named John Jaquish back in, I think, 2011 when he did all of his initial research. He's a PhD biophysicist, I think is his degree, or biomechanical engineer type. Anyway, he's kinesiology times 10. His mom was diagnosed with osteoporosis, and the options at the time were to take the bisphosphonate meds, and the medications are expensive and have a long list of pretty nasty side effects, and they're limited. You can only take them for a few years really before they get diminishing returns. So he thought that there's got to be a better way. He did a bunch of studies, looked at all the data, looked way back into hundreds of years ago with Wolff's Law and what it takes to actually stimulate bone growth, and created the environment with these devices in which that can happen safely. Because we know that when we load our skeleton with jumping, say we go jump off a 5-foot ledge, or we're a gymnast and we're flipping and landing hard, or we're pounding, running down a mountain, we know these things stimulate skeletal growth, but they also wreak havoc on our joints, that we're injury prone. And someone who's osteoporotic in their 60s or 70s or 80s, the last thing you want to tell them to do is go jump off ledges to stimulate their bone growth. They don't even want to walk around the room. This is a way for people to come in. It literally takes 10-15 minutes once a week, and they are able to load their skeleton using their own muscles in a safe ergonomic position where you're maximizing the bone angles with either your lower or your upper or your posture or your core in the right 120-degree angle. And it allows you to optimize your muscles so you can generate huge amounts of force. So say I'm 170 pounds, and in order for me to stimulate osteogenesis or bone growth, I have to, in my lower growth, in my lower body, like where my femur and tibia and fibula and pelvis is, I need to hit at least 4.2 multiples of body weight before growth happens or osteogenesis is triggered. Anything less than that typically won't do anything, and more will trigger more. But there's this switch. And once you hit that switch, which turns out is 4.2 multiples of body weight, and if you do the math, 170 times 4.2 is quite a bit. I'm not going to be able to deadlift 600 pounds, 700 pounds. And to do that, I mean, I, for one, I can't. And for two, even if I could, there's no way I could consistently lift that type of weight and do it safely without massive risk of injury. So by using these devices, I can load not only 600 or 700 pounds, but I think the last time I pushed 2,300 pounds through my legs, and it doesn't hurt. It literally takes 10-15 seconds to do the whole push. You're kind of gradually pushing in, holding it for 5 or 10 seconds, then gradually letting out. It's literally bending your bones and putting pressure on the joints, pressure across the entire shaft of the bone, into your pelvis, all the things. And over the next week, your body's just laying down bone. So then you do it again once a week and do that for anywhere between 6 to 18 months or longer. You can do it. There's nothing to say you can't do it longer. But usually after about a year or so, it can completely reverse osteoporosis.
Wow, a big question that comes up with me that I know other people have asked, because I've actually talked to people about this since we
Right.
talked about it on our phone call, because they've been like, "Oh, I have this pain." I'm like, "You should totally go find one of these institutes and check it out."
Mhm. Yeah,
But
there's a lot in California. I think there's like 30 in California.
that's insane and amazing. My big question is, how would you tell someone who might not understand and be like, "Oh, well, I'm lifting weights. Isn't that
Mhm.
enough?"
Right, which is a great thing to do. I'm a huge fan of resistance training, and we can talk a little bit more about that because I love lifting weights. I love lifting heavy stuff up and down. If you're doing that and you like that, of course, keep doing it. There's also better ways to do it. There's safer ways and more effective ways than just lifting dumbbells and free weights. But resistance training to strengthen your muscles is a great thing to do that people should absolutely continue to do. However, there's no way you can lift with your muscles enough to stimulate your bones. Weightlifting is good to help slow down bone loss.
Mhm.
It can even maintain bone strength where it is. But no matter how old you are, how young you are, or how fit you are, all of us begin to lose bone mass unless we're consistently triggering that neurogenic trigger at 4.2 multiples of body weight or more. Weightlifting will get your muscles stronger. OsteoStrong will get your bones stronger. And incidentally, your muscles can only get as strong as your bones are.
Mhm.
So as your bones naturally lose some of that strength, your muscles will shrink because our bodies don't want our muscles to break our bones. That's why we generally get weaker, our posture slumps, our muscles aren't quite where they were, our tone goes down as we get older, is primarily because our bones are getting weaker.
Mhm.
So keep lifting weights, great thing. Add in OsteoStrong to get your bones matching up to where you want your muscles to be, and then it's a slam dunk.
Wow. Oh, all right. My next question. I'm very fascinated with this whole, you are pushing this like a leg press, for example, maybe, correct?
Yeah, the lower growth trigger one, that looks very much like a leg press.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And then when you're pushing that weight, does it feel like, are you sweating during the session because it's so short? Does it stimulate the same kind of stress on the body as like a weightlifting session? Or is it more like, okay, we're here. It feels like 50%, 70% effort in my body. We do this, we hold it, done. Next machine.
Yes, that's a great question. We counsel or encourage people not to look at their OsteoStrong session as a workout.
Yeah.
If you want to go there and you want to sweat and start panting and feel like you're like walking out fatigued, this is not that. In fact, people walk in, they do the thing, they're like, oh, that was it? And then they walk out feeling great and they're not fatigued. And then you can go on and do your workout later on in the day for your muscles. But these, you're not sweating. You are putting effort in. For example, the leg press one, the lower growth trigger, you get in there, every session is guided by a coach. The coach will help make sure you're in the correct position in this device, making sure the ergonomics are lined up, the legs are the correct width, the right height. They'll adjust the seat to match your correct height. We use a little goniometer to make sure that your legs are bent to that perfect 120-degree angle.
Mhm.
And then the machine is locked into place. And then you're essentially just pushing, and the machine isn't moving at all, but it has sensors on there to gauge how much force you're pushing through there. So then you can look on the screen and say, oh, I'm pushing 50, 100, 200, 500, 1,000. Whoa, I just crossed 2,000 pounds. And you feel your legs are bending down. When you get to that max point, you're quivering, you're shaking because you're putting a lot of effort in. Then you slowly back off and you're done. It's like literally 10, 15 seconds total. It's not enough time to start panting, crack a sweat, get fatigued, but you're really stressing your bones.
Maybe you can explain the process that's happening in the muscles. Does it have anything to do with the proprioceptive mechanisms in the muscles or like Golgi tendon organs or any of those guys?
Yeah, there's a lot of other resources that dive deeper into the science, but I think what it's based on is what's called the piezoelectric effect.
Mhm.
So pressure induces electricity, which induces growth. That's that neurogenic trigger that'll happen. From the pressure, it actually creates electricity and stimulates things to happen. Piezoelectric effect is kind of the buzzword to look up. And that's what this is doing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good. The other thing I want to mention too is like people come in, they do their bone loading session, they get their legs, their and pelvis, and then we have an upper growth one where you're essentially just kind of putting your arms into the extended position that you'd be in if you were doing a bench press.
Mhm.
Then you can push from there.
Mhm.
And then there's a core where you're pulling down and with your arms and lifting up with your legs. And then another one that's called the postural, where it's essentially mimicking picking up a wheelbarrow. And that's loading your spine. Of course, you want to make sure you're doing all these safely, guided by a coach for the ergonomics, but that compresses your spine. People with degenerative disc disease or issues with their spine or posture, over time, it just straightens all that stuff out. People come in and do that stuff.
Mhm.
But in addition, Every OsteoStrong center has all these other feel-good things too that have all sorts of benefits. We have full body vibe plates. So before you start, you kind of stand on these vibration plates and it juices up the system. There's all sorts of cardiovascular benefit with those. And then when you're done, we have red light booth and the Normatec compression boots and crystal infused mats that stimulate your mitochondria and stimulate all sorts of healing benefits and energy. Then we also have a hydro massage bed. So you go in and you do your thing, and then you feel good with one of these other kind of relaxing modalities. For people who really want that workout, John Jaquish, who's the inventor of the OsteoStrong devices, he also invented what's called the X3 system, which is these variable resistant training bands. I quit lifting weights back in October, and I'm a big fan of lifting weights, and I've shifted all the way to these resistance bands because they're just more effective. You can go there and do a 15-minute workout with these resistance bands where they're hooked to a plate and hooked to a bar. You can do every exercise to get every muscle group and put yourself into a panting tizzy in 15 minutes and walk out the door and you're done. I've done that, and I've put on 10 pounds of lean muscle in little over 4 months, which may not sound like a lot to maybe somebody who's in the field. But
Mhm.
for someone like me who's an ectomorph and I've been lifting weights for 15, 20 years, I don't put on weight. I struggle to gain weight at all. So I maintain, I try to get stronger. Maybe my nerves will get stronger. Maybe I'll get a little bit more functional strength, but I don't put on muscle until now. That's to me another testament that, okay, this whole combination that we're doing with bone loading and then adding in this X3 resistance training is a winning combo.
Absolutely. I don't think many people realize this, but our nervous systems can only withstand 5 times less than what our physical bodies can stand. The fact that you are seeing this growth in your muscles after perhaps a plateau or mini fluctuations, but you
Mhm.
haven't seen 10 pounds of muscle mass gained over many years prior to that. Like we met because of the gym at the
Right. Yeah.
shout
Yeah.
out to Alaska Rock Gym. And
Day exercise.
we love it. To eliminate that and to totally defragment and reframe, one of my favorite things to do, all these ways that we think we have to operate or ways we think we have to work out to gain this glorified end goal, what have you, which isn't bad, but there are better ways and more efficient ways that are probably going to help the nervous system so much more. And then you're not overworking, you're reducing stress on different levels, and then the other stress you have in your life actually gets to de-escalate as well because you don't have to deal with so much physical stress as in the sense of like time volume. Like you're not exhausting yourself with an hour of cardio and then going into a weightlifting session, which is just asking for damage down the road. From personal experience, I can
Yeah.
totally speak on that.
Yeah. I could talk for a while about that. Mhm.
Yeah. And since you've been doing this, you've had your fair share of accidents and breaks. How does your body feel now versus then? And then any examples you have of clients who have been coming in and their progress that you've seen?
Sure. First, I'll talk a little bit about some of the members. We've had so many come in who were like, "What is this? I want to try it out." In the 4 months we've been open here in Anchorage, I know of at least three specific cases where there were people who were scheduled for total knee replacements because
Mhm.
they were bone on bone, could barely walk, excruciating pain, and they actually had surgical dates planned. They were doing all the prep to have surgery done. They started doing this, and within a couple months, all of their symptoms were gone. Now they're like, there's no need for me to have a surgery because I feel great. And they're skipping up and down the stairs and they're lifting their jugs of water that they couldn't even do before. To me, that's a huge win. I love stories like that. We also have high performing athletes come in. They're like really showing significant gains. We've got young people, we've got old people. I think the oldest person we've got in there is 88 right now. And then we have 20 something year olds doing it. So whatever your goals are, it's kind of meeting them. Now with my story, it's a long story. I have a long history of many injuries. My mindset historically for much of my life has been if a little bit's good, more is better. And if I can run this, I should run more. And if I can lift that, I should lift more. And if I can last that long, I should last that much longer. And I would go on these all day, multi day epics. And I've used and abused my body more than I should have. I've had 3 shoulder surgeries. I've broken my back. I had to have back surgery. I've herniated discs. I've wrecked my knees. I'm technically 100% disabled
Mhm.
if you look at me on paper,
Yeah.
but I am on fire. I've actually never felt better in my life.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons that has made that happen is I've cut back on the epic cortisol inducing, stress hormone inducing things. I still do them every now and then. Like I love a good suffer fest and type 2, type 3, type 4 fun. I got stories and I love to be able to do those things every now and then. But relying on those things for my health and wellness or for my exercise was diminishing returns. Now I've found that shifting to this, I do more yoga. I spend a lot less time working out. When I do work out, it's a lot more effective and there's less stress on my body. Quick example, a year and a half ago, what got me started on this path with OsteoStrong, I had a really, really terrible motorcycle accident. Pretty traumatic. I've been riding motorcycles for a while, never had a bad wreck until then. I ended up breaking 5 bones, concussion, ripped ligaments, road rash. I mean, I should have died. I'm glad I didn't. Everything healed up eventually, except the last kind of vestige that hadn't healed up was my left knee. I had a
Mm.
complete PCL rupture in the knee from the wreck. I kind of rehabbed it, and it was just still just giving me enough grief that like, okay, we got to do something. And it flared up during a hunting trip last fall, and then it kind of gave out on to me altogether in November. So when got an MRI, sure enough, that PCL is all messed up and gone. At this point, we just got to fix it. So surgeon went in there, found that the PCL remnant, a meniscus remnant, and a chunk of my tibia from a tibia avulsion when everything got ripped to pieces had all grown together into a conglomerate and had formed a essentially an effective stable ligament. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. All the surgeon had to do was trim a little bit around the cartilage, flush the whole thing out, put me back together, and literally a couple days later, I was walking. I was in PT a few days after that, with actually exactly 1 week after surgery, and they're doing all the things. And I'm like, well, you just passed everything that everyone does at 3 months. And then I kept doing my thing at 6 weeks with PT. They're like, you're graduated. Like we've never actually seen anybody heal this quick. And the whole time I was doing small, low level pushes with OsteoStrong
Yeah.
within the guidelines that my surgeon and PT gave me. But I had set the stage for really quick and rapid healing. I'm skiing, I'm ice climbing, I'm back on it. It's like my knee injury never happened. I really, really genuinely believe that part of that quick healing was because of a shift in the way I've looked at health and wellness. It's the
Mhm.
way I've changed my diet, the way I've changed my exercise habits, my activity levels, or the rate and style and intensity of it. I have a qigong practice that I do on the side, and I think all of those things combine. I'm still on this journey of trying to optimize what health and wellness actually means, but
Mhm.
I feel like I jumped into a really good river.
Mm. That river loves you.
It does.
I remember when I saw when you posted about your motorcycle accident, I was like, "Oh, that does not look good." And here you are.
Mhm.
What do you think is your favorite part of this reflection period? What you shifted during that time and you allowed yourself to be open to? You fully surrendered to the river of life. You allowed things to come in. You allowed your emotions to exist and express, but also be willing to try new things and go, okay, why not? What do I have to lose? Which I think is a great partner to your I got to go more and I want more and I'm hungry for that more, like
Mhm.
attitude and attribute that you have.
Hmm. Yeah, how to answer that one? Because it's multifaceted with that for sure.
Mhm.
I think I want to back up just a little bit. I think there's a time in my life when I feel like I knew everything, felt like I had all the answers. And that house of cards came crashing down pretty hard. I realized that I really didn't know anything. I left the religion of my childhood, and in so doing, I had to deconstruct literally everything that I believed or thought to be true or what reality was, and then build it back in a way that I felt was more genuine to who I was. I'm sure there's millions of people who've gone through similar shifts or changes in their lives, and anyone who's done that can probably relate on some level. It's a big deal. It's a big deal to go from here to here and then bridge that gap with being open to new knowledge, new ways of looking at stuff, embracing who we are, our failures, our successes, our emotions, our feelings, and what those really mean and what they maybe don't mean. When I broke my back in 2012, I was actually at a scout camp. I was a scoutmaster at the time.
Mhm.
And it was a stupid accident, little rope swing incident. We'll skip the details, but I ended up getting folded in half. It's my own fault. Broke T12, herniated a disc, ripped my shoulder. It was a bad injury. Fast forward another 8 years from there, I'm nursing my back and kind of limping along, doing my best to keep things at bay with
Mhm.
yoga and stretching and exercise the best I knew how. And then I did a big long race. Again, like stupid Jake, go out and push harder and harder. It wasn't just like a normal race. It was a 265-mile single track mountain bike race over literally every single trail of the Kenai Peninsula in the like up in Alaska. And it's nonstop. I did this thing in like 30 hours in one push. I stopped for a 5 minute break to eat a Slim Jim sausage. And then other than that, we'd stop to pee and stretch and eat some food. And it felt reasonably good during the thing. Of course, it hurts and it's tiring and it's saddle sore and all the things. But the next several days after that, as I was trying to recover, it just didn't recover. And it got worse, in fact. My legs stopped working. Then I'm like, okay, something is wrong. Then I ended up having to have emergency surgery because that turns out that disc that had bulged had now completely ruptured. At some point during the effort of that bike race, everything just blew to pieces, and it was putting so much pressure on my spine that I was essentially going paralyzed. They went in, did emergency surgery, cleaned out that disc, decided to clean out the disc and not fuse anything and put any hardware in there, just let things heal up and see how it does.
Mhm.
That's how it went. Now, 3 days after surgery, I had scheduled an appointment with an acupuncturist because I didn't know what was happening before that. I'm like, I got to do something. Maybe an acupuncture session will help. And I'd never done acupuncture before. Turns out this guy was more than acupuncture. He was a very like-minded healer who had studied 30 years of Eastern medicine. Turns out he's a doctor of Chinese medicine. He's an herbalist. Not only that, but he's a master qigong practitioner with energy work. And he did all that on me. And I didn't really realize what was happening, but as I sat there in the dark on this bed with needles all through my body, he did his thing and then walked out of the room and left me in the dark. I just felt my whole body begin to buzz, head to toe, with like electrical currents connecting everywhere. And my right leg, which up until that point was essentially numb, started firing off. I'm like, whoa, what is happening here? And I could tell that something very different than what I was taught in nursing school and working with all the doctors in the medical field that I work in was happening. And after that session, incidentally, I got up off the bed after that, rolled up, and I'd come in and like I was on all the oxycodone and pain meds. I just had back surgery. I was 3 days earlier. It's kind of a big deal. And I got up and I kind of moved and I'm like, well, hot damn, I feel great.
Mhm.
I don't actually have any pain, and I didn't take a pain med after that. And then I looked up this guy several months later and said, "Hey, Ryan Marshall is his name. Do you remember me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I remember you. You're a bit of an anomaly." And I'm like, "I want to learn what you did." And he's like, "Come, let's talk." He hadn't taken on a student in a while, and he took me under his wing and he said, "Let me show you what we're doing." And he began to teach me qigong and energy work, and not just that, but opened my mind to things that I couldn't see, things that I had not yet considered. And I think for me, that was a major turning point where I began to actually embrace my body embrace reality the best I can see it, be open to anything that is actually beneficial while maintaining, I think, a healthy level of skepticism, because we need that.
Mhm.
But developing my own qigong practice, and that has opened up windows of opportunity, not only flowing within my own body, but flowing outside of my body and the people around me in my circle. I really think that's the key to a well-balanced life, is just remembering that we don't know everything. In fact, we know a whole lot less than we know. And that's what's fun. I think that's one of the needs of humanity. We need to know some things, and then we need to not know some things. And it's that not knowing that drives us to keep learning more. That keeps things interesting. And so if there is a purpose, I think that's what it is.
Mhm.
I don't even know if I answered your question.
You sure did. Well, we're breathing for that one. I feel the realness in my body. You've told me that story or some of that story before,
Oh,
and I love hearing it again because you are the perfect mix of the scientific world and nursing and being in a clinical setting with doctors in this Western world. But then you experienced firsthand the benefit of what energetic Eastern medicine, naturopathic ways can aid in that. Like you
mhm,
needed both to come together. That surgery needed to happen
yeah,
and that energy work needed to happen so that you could continue to exist and feel that energy, the electrical current come back to life. The subtle energy, perhaps you could explain what that was for you. In my experience, our subtle bodies, when it's whole, you're surrounded in this bubble
mhm,
of cushion and of power. Every movement you have is power. And it's not power of I know everything like you just said. It's I don't know everything, but I can use my intuition to know for me the next step. And that's about all I have to know in order to continue forward.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, we don't have to know everything. We just have to have enough faith that when I take that next step, it's gonna be all right. And that's lovely. It's a lovely way to live. Right now, I am full-time with running our orthopedic clinic, and that is my focus, that is my job. I don't have a whole lot of time to dive into the OsteoStrong side of things, so thank God for Amy and Megan and Carly and Selah and Ben and Heather, all the people that are running that shop. All I do is the bookkeeping and financing on the side. I run the payroll, yay. But
Woohoo!
I'm excited for when, and I do have an opportunity here in about 13 months where I can move on from this position I'm in now, and I can lean full time into OsteoStrong and really leaning into that, which in my mind is a perfect blend of that Western meets Eastern side of things. And by no means do we say, oh, just because we have people cancel their knee surgery doesn't mean everyone should cancel their knee surgery. But absolutely not.
Mhm.
Am I a fan of surgery, medications, of doctors and blood work and all the things? Absolutely. And we can use all these other things too to augment all of the things and combine them into maximizing what we can do. And that's my vision.
I love your vision.
Hmm,
I hope when we move back to Alaska, I get to be a part of that vision
hmm,
because it's a good one and it's
yeah,
going places and it's inclusive. Inclusivity when it comes to our well-being as humans feels good, where we don't have to pick and choose or shame aside or doubt or just because we don't have our own trust of whatever that practice might be that we're going towards. But
hmm,
when we can be surrounded with a community that is safe and nourishing and is here to guide and not press, I think that allows us to open up and bloom and jump in that river and ride it to wherever it's going to lead us next. And
hmm,
yeah, maybe it does take us out of a knee surgery, which would be amazing because it can just help your body operate how it's been as a whole thing. But if you need it, you need it. And then just like you'll come on back, you'll start pushing around, and then you'll heal 10 times faster than you did.
yeah. I needed my back surgery. I really did. I mean, maybe I didn't. Who knows? Maybe if I'd done OsteoStrong, it would have fixed my back. I doubt it. I really think I needed that surgery, and I really think sometimes we need our injuries our surgeries and our illnesses and our diseases to sometimes remind us to listen. What
Mm,
is this? What is my body trying to tell me right now? I'm pretty thick-headed and a little bit stubborn sometimes, so I tend to, I'd like to say historically, but it's probably going to keep happening. I tend to learn through injuries, sometimes loud injuries that nearly kill me.
mhm.
But at the same time, those are the things that sometimes get us over the hump and get us out of a loop so we can keep on that path.
Yeah. If you could give advice to someone who, let's say, lives a pretty average American lifestyle, you wake up, you go to your 9 to 5, maybe you're pleased with it, maybe you're not, eating typical foods, watching TV or social media, what would you give them as advice?
So it's a big question on the spot, but I think I'm going to answer with this. I'm a huge fan of like the 80-20 concept.
Mhm,
If you're not familiar with that, basically do the things that you ought to be doing 80% of the time. And then the rest of the 20% of the time, that's where you can do the other things. Sometimes you want to eat that donut, or sometimes you want to stay up all night dancing with your friends, or sometimes you want to do these other things that are really kind of fun and add spice and interest and variety to life. But if we're doing that all the time, then we're downsliding. Little habits you can do about 80% of the time, you know, skip that breakfast. Drink some amino acids and a nice power green shake and do some intermittent fasting. What I do is I've worked into this habit of I wake up in the morning, I brew a cup of black coffee, I sip on that cup throughout the morning. And the first thing I drink is like my little amino acid shake. It's got like 5 calories. It keeps me at a ketogenic state.
mhm,
Drink some power greens. Then I'll eat bunch of food starting around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when I eat my nice first meal of the day. Good focus on good high quality protein. Alaska's great because we have a lot of wild game here and I can eat lots of moose and salmon and caribou, and I love that. There's no calorie restrictions. There's no foods off limit for me. I pack in my eating in that kind of 8 hour window between 1 in the afternoon and 9 at night. That's
mhm,
just what works for me. Some people might want their window in the morning, but if you can consolidate your eating into about an 8 hour window, there's a lot of good science that says that's a really good way to allow your digestive system to reset, clean itself out, and then replenish. Focus on good, high quality foods, good, high quality protein, and then if you focus on filling up with that kind of stuff, the rest is just fun. If you want to eat a donut, do it. Enjoy that piece of pizza, drink a beer, whatever. But do you need to drink 3 beers every night? No. Can you sometimes? Absolutely. That's where this 80-20 concept comes in. Developing habits turn into practices, and practices turn into like the essence of who we are. So start small. Don't beat yourself up if you want to eat 3 donuts and you feel like crap afterwards. Maybe learn the lesson and maybe don't do that next time. But
mhm,
it's not the end of the world when we do. So be nice to ourselves, love ourselves, develop good habits, do those most of the time,
mhm.
and be open to wisdom and knowledge that comes because there's lots of it out there.
What do you think is a recent piece of wisdom that's come to you, and how have you listened to it?
Hmm. Well, I'd like to thank my wife. I'm going to publicly thank my wife, Amy, because she has been really good at calling me out on whenever I'm exuding signs of passive aggressive behavior
Mm,
or something like that, or maybe communication that's not that good. So I think honesty, being brutally honest and being able to take brutally honest feedback and be okay with that has been a recent thing that's been really useful for me. And in doing that, letting go of some of my people pleasing tendencies. Sometimes I try to do everything to make everybody around me happy, and realizing that sometimes that results in compromises and slips in my ethics and standards because we can't do that. Again, like maybe that kind of goes to the 80-20 rule. We try to keep 80% of the people around you happy, but really 20% of those people, maybe they're not your circle. Maybe they're on a different path, and that's okay.
I really like that answer. Oh. I really love that answer because that resonates deeply. And I'm sure that resonates with a lot of people, that allowing ourselves to be firm. Something that I was recently reading in a book that I've been speaking about here has been being able to hold whatever it is in our lives, a partner, a husband, a wife, a daughter, a son, but holding them to their own reflection, and not even us being a reflection of them, but countering what they're projecting or seeing or operating with that perspective, and being like, hey, is that really you? And
Mhm,
if it is you, okay, do you like that? Or if it's not you, who are you trying to be and why?
mhm,
And what are you actually suffering because you're not being you? So that's a very, I really love that that's the little synchronicity of your wisdom is just dancing alongside what I'm currently contemplating as well.
well, yeah, I mean, not that's not a shocker, right? I think we're riding a pretty similar wave,
Mhm,
and I genuinely do believe, mm, not just believe, I think based upon evidence
mhm,
that humanity, all of life is connected at some level. We share a lot of these waves and these downloads of information and wisdom that can come to us, whether it's coming from the mycelium that we walk on, or it's the air we're breathing, or the viruses floating around the planet that we assimilate into our genetic code, or just tapping into each other's aura. I don't know how it all works. I doubt anyone actually knows all the answers to that. But I do genuinely think that we are connected, and that listening to each other, listening to the wisdom that our collective consciousness can generate, I think we're poised to have a pretty awesome and amazing future. I'm excited to see what humanity's doing in 50 or 100 years.
mhm.
I will probably be dead in 100 years, just saying, but maybe not.
You never know with OsteoStrong. Honestly, I tell people I'm living to 124 and no one can tell me otherwise, and then I get laughed at. But
Yeah, I'm not laughing.
no, it is, I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I truly do think that with what is happening, evidence of this, we can feel good at 70, 80, 90, 100. We don't have to be crippling, and it doesn't even have to be this I have to live forever. It's just we get to live an extended life because of decisions that are aligned and well and nourishing.
Right.
And that's it. And then how does that get to produce a more effective, loving, safe planet that's sustainable and healing itself over and over again, and us getting out of the way? It's just like with fasting. We're getting out of our own way. So many stories of chronic illnesses, and we fast and doctors go back in and, oh, what'd you do? That thing is gone, or it gets a lot smaller because we're getting out of our way. We're not putting food in. We're letting the body be the body, giving it all of the energy, allowing the mitochondria to do its job, to really focus in on what that issue is. So, like the analogy of a hurt animal in nature, when they get hurt, they're not going to try to go out and be seen by their predators. They're going to go hide and sleep.
Hmm.
That's about all they're doing for a week or two. Then they come back out and they're healed for the most part, most of the time. Of course, there is death and that's part of the cycle, but I think that it's a fascinating thing we can envision and we can pray for a future that aligns with a really sustainable vision.
I love that. And I think it's a yoga nidra concept. It's also found in qigong and many traditional modalities. This concept of learning to die with grace.
Mm,
And the way I view that is recognizing the fact that we are going to die, and yet in the process of living, we can contribute to this whole that's around us, and then also embrace this cycle of life and death and rebirth and death and rebirth and death, and recognizing that we're part of that. And I think that transcends any religion or philosophical paradigm, just because I think we all, at some level, whether we believe that this is it or whether we continue, either way, we do know that life happens, that death happens, and that birth happens, and that we're somewhere in the middle of it all. And the best we can learn how to be in that cycle with grace from start to finish, I think is the key to like a healthy living.
Mm, that was beautifully said. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Isabel. I love our. You just never know where our conversations are going to go. It's like, what are you going to talk about? I don't know. I'm going to talk with Isabel, and we'll talk about something.
Something cool. There are many times I held back on asking a very off to this other part of the river question, and I was like, no, let's stay with the
Yeah,
conversation.
no, another time. Another time. There's
Like
so
we
many
can
ways
talk
we could go here.
Tai Chi, Qigong, psychedelics.
Yeah.
So we'll stick with this today. Do you have anything else that you would like to share about OsteoStrong, about anything going on in that world for anyone?
Yeah. So OsteoStrong is really cool. It's more than just building bones. It's like building lives and regaining things. Come check it out. If you've hit a plateau in your life, you just got a diagnosis of osteoporosis, or you just got a diagnosis of diabetes, or you just realize like, hey, I'm an Olympic marathoner and I want to cut some time, or I want to just feel better, come check it out. I'm an OsteoStrong owner. When I was looking into bringing the franchise here to Anchorage, I didn't really have a concept of what it was until I went down and did training and actually sat in one of these centers and used the devices and saw what it did. And then I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. I got it now. There's almost 200 centers around the world now that's growing steadily in I think 15 or 16 different countries now. So find the closest OsteoStrong center to you. Just Google osteostrong.me, click on locations. You'll find one relatively close. Sign up for a free session. They'll show you the ropes. Go check it out. And that's my pitch.
I like it. Perfect. Well, thank you, Jake. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please go check out an OsteoStrong, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Please consider leaving a 5-star review, following along on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out the video version on YouTube, and come hang out with me on Threads. We are making an impact together every single day that we stand up and we share, we learn, and we thrive.